Side note, is there anything better than working in your nice shop on a nice rainy Sunday? That's my church. Hey everybody, welcome back to Trial and Error. If you follow my Facebook page, you may have noticed I just picked up a new Goldwing, and I didn't turn 70 years old. I've always liked them, and the new ones aren't just for old people anymore. They're actually a nice looking bike, at least I think, for a full dress touring bike. And I mean, they're the king of the cruisers, so I had to at least get one to try it. So one thing I did right away is upgraded the speakers. The sound systems that they come with are okay, but they're not great. So I went with infinities all the way around, and so now I got great mid-bass, great mid-range, excellent highs. It's very crisp, but the low end still just leaves you a lot of room for improvement. So I've also been keeping my eye on these things. These started to get popular in the market probably a few years ago. I've never tried one before. I don't know if they're any good. So like everything, I bought probably the cheapest one you can find on Amazon. I'm gonna link that in the description as well. And we're gonna see if this thing's any good. What I really liked about going with this idea, and for those of you who don't know, this is just a small subwoofer. They're made to go under the seats in cars or in trucks where you really don't wanna dedicate any space to your bass. Because it's all self-contained, so you've got your driver, your subwoofer driver, and your amplifier. It's all just built into one pretty heavy aluminum chassis. This is going to allow me to set it up with just 2 quick disconnect plugs. So when we decide that we're going to go on a long trip or really going to use the bike as a tourer, and you want every square inch of your interior storage back, undo 2 plugs, pull the sub right out, and then when you get back, you just plug it back in. So I think that's going to work really nice. So I'm not really losing any space. I can easily get back when I need it. So we'll get this thing open, and we'll start a wiring job. But we'll get it wired up, and I'll let you know what I think. It might suck, or it might be great. We'll find out. All right, so get out of the box, and I mean, it feels good. It's probably a 17, 18 pounds. It's all, like I said, all aluminum, cast aluminum. Guessing probably an 8 or a 10, maybe a 10-inch driver or something in between. But real slim, obviously a real slim driver. Amplifier wise, or input wise, we've got your idiot lights, a phase button, which is really nice to have, especially when you're doing what I'm going to be doing here, or what most of you will probably do, is use the high level inputs. So this allows you to kind of piggyback off existing speakers, drop that in, this converts it to a line level signal, so the normal RCAs, and uses that as your signal. The problem with that is, like, I'm going to be tapping into a harness, and I don't necessarily know the polarity of that harness. So if we're out of phase, meaning when this goes out, the other drivers on the system go in, that's a bad thing. We can just hit that button, and that will reverse the phase so that it allows all of your drivers to play at the same time. And again, the only time that's really handy is if you don't know what the polarity necessarily is of the wires going in. So the other part is you can put a multimeter on there and find out, but sometimes even when you do that, just because of the layout, like this will be laying flat, the other drivers are laying at a 45, the other drivers are laying at another 45, sometimes just messing around with that phase button gives you a much better bass response in the area that you're sitting that otherwise you really wouldn't notice. So phases are always a good thing to have. We've got some low pass filter here, so anywhere from 50 hertz is at the bottom cutoff up to 150K. Bass boost, so that's probably boosting somewhere around 80 or 100 hertz. It will just boost that frequency up to 12 decibels-ish. And then your normal volume, your input gain, basically. Does have a remote control, so we've got a wired remote which I can put up where I can get to it for quick adjustments of the bass, which is really nice. As we said, line level inputs like you'd see on any other amp. High level inputs, fuse, power, remote, ground, and 12 volts. So ground is ground, negative in a 12 volt system. 12 volt positive, that is your main feed, so you want a decent size gauge, so 25 amp fuse in this. So I'm going to probably run some 8 gauge here. And then remote, this is your remote turn on. So you send a 12 volt signal to this to tell the amp to turn on, so that when there's no 12 volts going to this, there's no load whatsoever on this, doesn't drain your battery. So very standard wiring setup from, for an amp. In fact, if you didn't see this grill here, you probably would just assume this was a power amp for a car. So I'm going to wire up some harnesses here to start with, and then we got to play the what wire does what game in the back of the Goldwing. We got that harness done here, so all this really is I've got a short set of pigtails that are going to go directly into the amp. I've got my connector, obviously, and then this is the cable that will be mounted or permanently installed in the bike. So when I want to take that amp out, I just disconnect this, amp comes right out. I'll also have a high level input, what the hell did I do with that? Stand by. Here's the connector that came with the amp and it has a short little lead on it, so obviously we extended that to get to where I need it to get to. So really what's going to be coming out of the bike is just these two harnesses that'll plug right into the amp, unplug from the amp, ready to go. I've routed the power, the ground, and the remote turn-on lead, kind of fished it through here with the existing harness, and fished out my power and my ground, or my positive and my ground, down to the battery. And I've left myself a nice tail here for the remote turn-on lead. And on a Goldwing, you've got this relay box basically. So I just pulled the very first line of the relay box out, which happens to have the ignition relay on it. So we're just going to tap off the output side of that ignition relay for our remote turn-on lead, and then we'll obviously directly wire in these guys. The only thing I don't have right now, I thought I had some here, but I don't, I'm out, is a fuse. So eventually I'm going to have to, well, not eventually, I just ordered a fuse on Amazon, or a pack of them. So we're going to cut in a fuse just to protect this lead, because there is nothing protecting it when you go in straight off the battery, in case there were a short out. But that's the other reason. It's not just about making your wires pretty, but all of this stuff, especially on a motorcycle, vibrates. So you want to make sure you've got some mitigation there so that nothing wears through and you turn your motorcycle into a candle. So first, let's fish a little bit of extra wire in back here. Make a little loop so I have some room to put a fuse on there later easily. And then we'll get some terminals on these guys. We're going to use some of these generic crimp-on connectors, but when it's something like this, it adds maybe 5% of time to your total project just to do it the right way and not have to worry about it. So I'm going to go pull this piece of plastic basically off of this, because we're not going to need that. We're going to crimp it, but we're also going to solder it in, and then we're going to heat shrink it. And the combination of those three things means this is a connection that will never go bad. It'll never go bad. Now, a crimp-on connector would probably never go bad as well, but they do go bad. Whereas we can do it this way, you do it once, you do it right, move on with your life. Next up, we're going to find our positive trigger. So this bike actually, unlike most, unlike many I should say, has a two-place ignition. So just like a car, you have an off, a accessory position, and then a run position. So we're going to kick it onto accessory. Actually, let me check. Let me ground out. Find a decent, suitable ground here. And we'll just test that. Make sure we got a good ground. We got a good ground. So back to voltage. So let's see here. We got no positives there. If I turn to ignition on, we still have no positives. Yeah, we got 12 volts in the on position. But we lose 12 volts in the accessory position, and we want 12 volts in the accessory. Jump down to our next relay. No 12 volts there. No 12 volts there. Ooh, looks like we're not going to get what we need out of that pack. That's okay. We'll just move on to the next set. So on our next set, we have headlights, position, suspension leveling, RVS shift, headlight adjustments. Nope, don't like that. Fan control, headlight, stoplight, limiter, cruise control, power amp. Well, that looks good. So that's going to be in this blue row. We'll pop that down and out. And actually, so yeah, no, we'll leave it out. No, we won't. I'm going to put this one back in so we don't have a ton of crap going on here. For the record, I friggin' love this setup. I've never seen a relay box set up this way. Really cool. All right, 0, still 0, still 0. What the hell power amp is that controlling? Did my ground went bad, son of a bitch. Okay. Let's go back. See if that was really... There we go. All right, so the power amp is good. We're getting 12 volts in the accessory position, 12 volts in the ignition on position, and it shuts off when the key's off. So that's exactly what we want to do to trigger our amp. So all I need to do now is cut our lead here, strip back just a little bit of it, and then we're going to have our ignition lead kind of follow this harness and get our lengths right. There's that. Yeah, buddy. All right, so we got power. And we have remote turn off. We have remote turn off. Perfect. So the audio system, the factory audio system on a fully loaded with navigation Goldwing is actually pretty complicated. It's right up there with just about any car system that you'd see. But what we have in the back here is about a 20-pin connector, and you can see I've stripped back some of the insulation here just so we get some access. And what this connector does is it basically handles all of the speakers that go into the amplifier, which is actually behind the rear fender, but it also takes the processed signals that come from that tuner that you saw in the back and basically makes the connection here. So from here, we can grab our front speakers, rear speakers, or whatever. When you're adding a subwoofer on a Goldwing especially, you want to make sure that you are adding it to the front speaker lines. And the reason for that is this has that SRS simulated surround sound. And when you're in that mode, it really drops the bass that goes to the rear channels. And it also makes it more of an effect sound than it is the true audio. So we want to tap into the front speakers, and I don't want to have to disassemble everything up through the gas tank and then up through the dashboard to run additional cables back, especially when they're all right here. So all we got to do is find them. So I've set my multimeter up, I've got it on continuity mode, and I've pinned out one of the speakers up front. And now we're just going to go through, and it's a yellow wire, so it should be one of two. I'm guessing it's this one. It's that one. So now we know this is one of our signal wires that we're going to tap our amplifier's high level input off of. Well, we could cut this and do another heat shrink connector. I don't think I want that big of a bundle in here, so I'm probably just going to strip this back a little bit, just enough to show a little bit of copper there. Well, I guess polarity doesn't really matter because we've got that phase switch, so I'll just be consistent in terms of yellow looks to be negative on there. So we'll just pull these guys together. Now like the way that melted. There we go. Okay, speaker wire connected, power connected. What am I sitting on? Piece of tape, chunk of tape.
Holy shit. That's insane.
Just gonna sneak this carpet in temporarily to shut it up a little bit. I'm probably gonna have to dynamat this trunk. That's a good problem to have though. Amp is installed, bolted down now, which is great, and most importantly, I have like still inches of clearance before the helmets, and I fit 2 of them in here, so I'll put one here and one there. So in all honesty, I don't think I'll ever have to take it out, but I can if I need to. There is another problem though. These trunks are actually really well sealed. There's a rubber seal on everything, and when you close it, it really does close in a lot of the sound. So I'm gonna have to open this up a little bit, and I think what is gonna make the most sense is we're gonna put some vents in here, just open up some space between the back seat and the bottom seat. There's a little bit of a gap there all the way around the edges, and that'll help just let the thing breathe a little bit, and it'll direct some of the bass. Not that bass is very directional, but it'll give it a path forward. I started with a 2.5-inch hole just to get an idea of how effective it would be, and as you can see, it's really effective. It made a huge difference. I'm really surprised at the amount of air that slim subwoofer can produce, and the other benefit to this is anytime you can let that air escape from either a trunk or a tour bag like this, it helps you reduce a lot of the rattling that goes along with deep and heavy bass, because you're not putting as much stress on all of the sides of the enclosure that it's in. So we're going to drill a few more of these things and really just let that kind of bleed through the seat. All right, we got some bump in my gold wing trunk, so now I can really enjoy it. It sounds awesome, it really does. I would say it's probably a hair better than I thought it was gonna be. And you know, for a car or an SUV or something, I don't know that that's worth necessarily the effort, but for a motorcycle or for a truck or just anything really with a smaller cabin or a smaller area you're trying to fill, good luck trying to find a better bang for the buck at that price point, because it really does. It sounds good. And I don't know why more motorcycles don't do something like this, because it's just, I've seen people go through so much more trouble to install like an 8 or a 10-inch subwoofer in their tour pack, and they end up losing more space. It's more work, and honestly, it doesn't sound any better. So I'm really happy with it. That's a great way to spend 100 and whatever it was. Again, links are all in the description if you want to check it out. But thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Any comments, questions, concerns, or criticisms, throw them down in the comment section below me. Otherwise, everybody, thanks for watching. Again, have a great day.